wine is about one thing, and that's about having fun. Really, that's what it's about. It's not something unusual. It's not something weird. It's not something complicated. Wine really is just a bunch of crushed grape juice fermented. So as long as you can just accept it that way and enjoy it for what it is, we're all going to have a great time. I want to tell you a story, and I think this goes, Rabbi Orad, I think this goes really with what the Renaissance, Jewish Renaissance is doing. I once did a tasting. I once did a tasting for a little organization called AISH, and it was at a tasting called the Zenith Experience. And the Zenith Experience is about how to get the most pleasure out of life. And you wouldn't think that a religious organization would be teaching everybody about pleasure principles. Yet that's what the whole day's event was about. And they asked me to do a tasting. And I did a tasting, and I'm going to teach you how to become professional wine tasters as we do this tasting. And the tasting was like this. We had 2 bottles of wine, and they were both what we call double blind. Does everybody remember their Psychology 101? Double blind means that not only don't the people know what they're tasting, but the people that are pouring it don't know what they're pouring. So that when I pour it for this gentleman here, I can't give him the impression that, oh, this is a good one. Or, you know, you're not going to like this one. With any kind of body language at all. So it was double blind. So I taught them about what we call the 5 S's. And the first wine, we poured out, it was in brown paper bags, very well tied. Nobody could see what it was. I poured it out for everybody. I told us to lift the glass. The rabbi made the bracha. Everybody, chug-a-lugged it down, and that was the end of it. And the second wine, and does everybody now have a glass in front of them? Everybody? If you don't? Okay, if someone does, please let her know. Yeah, the Goose Face Sauvignon Blanc. On the second wine, I told everybody, okay, this is wine number 2, a different wine. I want you to lift it up, and I want you to become professional wine tasters. Here's what we're going to do. All you have to do is remember the 5 S's. The first S, what do you think the first S is? Wrong. Someone said Smith. I don't know. Smith, okay. No, the first S is the S of sight. So everybody take a look at your glass of wine, lift it up. What you're looking for is color and clarity. Color and clarity. And in this wine, a white wine can be anything from almost clear to almost brown in color. Of course, if it's brown, that's usually not a good sign. Anyone ever take an apple, cut it in half, leave it on the table, 15 minutes later, what happens? It's brown, and that's because it's oxidized. Okay? That could happen to wine too. So wine could be almost clear, because even red wine juice, when it comes out of the grape, is clear. It's actually clear, and I'll explain that later, how it gets its color. But, okay, so it's got to be clear, and it can't be cloudy. You can't have stuff floating around. And I would consider this pretty good. All right, so that's the first S. What do you think the second S is?
Swirl.
Who said swirl? Okay, you're cheating. You probably know. Okay, it is swirl. And so everybody take your glass and swirl it. One of the ways to swirl it so that you don't get it on your beautiful clothing is to put it on the table and go like this with it, and then it usually won't come out of the glass. And the reason why you want to swirl it is for 2 reasons. First of all, you want to aerate as much of the wine as possible. You want to flatten out the wine on the sides of the glass so that it is exposed to more air. And that will in turn allow it to release something, which we're going to get to in a moment. The other reason you want to do the S is because you want to go back to the S of sight, and you can actually see it even on these cups. There's little driplets on the sides of the glass, or this cup. We call that, in wine speak, we call those legs. And the more legs, and the thicker the legs, the more viscous the wine. The more rich the wine will be in terms of texture. I don't know about in terms of flavor, but in terms of texture. Sometimes alcohol adds to that. Sometimes a sweet wine will have more legs. Okay? So the second S, the S of? Someone said it. Come on. Swirl. Okay, what's the third S?
Smell.
Oh, fine. That's good. Don't worry. By the time you get to the 5th S, we'll be so drunk nobody will know what they're talking about. All right. I want everybody to take your little Jewish noses, put it into the glass. Put your little Jewish nose in the glass. And what you want to do in the essence of smell is you want to, and I talked about this with the Chevra and at Pesach programs for many years. Some of you have already seen me do this kind of stuff. But in any event, what you want to do is you want to try to identify aromas that you're already familiar with. You want to try to identify aromas that you're already familiar with. This one, for example, smells a little bit like pineapple, a little bit like sour lemons, maybe a little bit like alcohol. Okay? So those are identifiable smells. What do you think the fourth S is? Anybody? Sip it. Sip it, that's close, but no cigar. Anybody else? What? Slurp it? Savor, very good. Did you come to my class before? Oh, look at that. Okay, it is savor. How do you spell it? S-O-D, depends how. But savoir, you want to savor it, and it's very interesting, and I'll show you this. God has done a wonderful thing with the human body. This is the human tongue. Happens to be my tongue, actually. Believe it or not, look at the size of it. Anyway, this is the human tongue. But what's interesting about the human tongue is that, and I'll step on this side. What's interesting about the human tongue is that taste buds over here may be shaped in squares, whereas over here they may be shaped in triangles, whereas over here they might be shaped curiously in an unusual fashion. And each flavor molecule is shaped differently as well. So that, for example, over here, our sugar, I don't know if I'm doing that right, but